Let's talk a little bit about, just for a minute, about short crashes, because this is something that comes up a lot. And of course, there's the famous Romeo and Juliet cymbal excerpt where you have short crashes. And I think what's important to think about, first of all, is, I'm doing short crashes, it goes back to this. I'm going to keep the cymbals at a lower part of my body, so when I'm muffling. And I think the other thing that gets lost in this, too, from a physical standpoint, is making sure as you muffle the cymbals that you don't actually come too far away. Because when I do that, I'm having to reset again for my cymbal crash. That's a lot of movement in that Romeo and Juliet excerpt. That's much easier. Now the cymbals are being sort of moving in a much more economical way. On the cymbal crash, I think you'll find be much more consistent. Also, what I find happens a lot with that excerpt or with short crashes is that we tend to make them too short. We kind of play a cymbal crash that goes, and if you hear that sound, that comes out on the tape too well, but it's like it finishes off just as the cymbal's peaking. And never, the crash doesn't really get to finish, so the beauty of the sound doesn't really get to be completed. I want to wait a little longer, if I can. I'm trying to let that sound last just a little bit longer so I can get the cymbal to finish its sound. And I feel like the overtone series is much more complete, and the sound for me is much more satisfying. Okay. Again, right hand's moving, left hand's not moving a lot except for the muffle. I'm kind of dropping in there. And I kind of think of it as I'm sort of knifing forward my right hand just to get that movement comfortable. Once you get that, it becomes very kinesthetic. Your muscles sort of memorize that. And then you're set to go. So, short crashes, one of the more difficult things we have to do, but an important thing to practice and to get comfortable with. And again, these are a set of, these are 18-inch special selection Constantinopolis. They're fairly heavy cymbals. Great for, I think they project well, they cut through the orchestra well for something like Romeo and Juliet. But they're a little harder to manage because they're a little heavier. And you may find you want something a little lighter to help you kind of gain control of that short crash. Whatever works for you, as long as the sound is acceptable in the environment, in the orchestration, in the concert hall, that's great, it works. If you're just getting comfortable with the concept of soft crashes, one of the things you can do is bring the cymbals together in your body. Be careful not to catch your shirt. Pull them in front of your body here, and just pull them apart a little bit so they're really close together. You can get them really close together, because if you're trying to do that, from you pick the cymbals up and you're trying to do that, and trying to get close together, you're nervous, it's very easy to kind of hit them together unintentionally. You don't want that to happen. So, bring them into your body here, kind of set them together quietly. Pull them away and just separate them. And what I like about this too, if I have some crashes in the ensemble, I can put them here in front of me and I can kind of look forward and I can sort of see the conductor, peripherally as well when I'm doing those crashes. Okay. So here's the position. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the right hand into the left hand, like so. And what I like to do, you can see my movement. My right hand is sort of moving what I call small oval movements. So if you were to trace that movement, it would look kind of like little eggs in my right hand, sort of coming up. So there is a point of contact with the stationary cymbal, maybe slightly brushing, but coming off it. What I think that does, at least for me, in terms of mentally, sort of softens the blow of the crash. Okay. Some people like to take their cymbals and they like to just sort of, in the soft crashes, just I'll do this way you can see it better. Just sort of come straight off the cymbal. That's great too. Whatever you feel comfortable with. I like to come in this way. You can see that movement, just a little bit of an oval shape. My left cymbal strikes just below the edge. My right cymbal, rather, strikes just below the edge of the left-hand stationary cymbal. You can see that better in this position. So you see, I'm not going to strike right there, just under there. And I'll practice that maybe just doing some quarter notes, just to get that movement comfortable. Get a sort of a consistency to that movement. Again, like I said with the short crashes, it can become very kinesthetic. Your muscles can sort of memorize that movement and that feel. You can work on getting it quieter. Okay, the more comfortable you get with the concept and maybe with a certain pair of cymbals that you use, you don't necessarily have to bring them in and do this. You know, if I'm doing an audition, as a matter of fact, I may not do this because I'm not going to watch a conductor. I may just kind of have him here, you know, bring him in this way, and just I know where I'm at here and bring him here, and then. Once you get comfortable with a certain pair of cymbals, you don't necessarily have to be bringing them together here and putting them in front of your body. I prefer to make my soft crashes happen down in this part of my body. Just like the rest of my crashes, kind of lower center of gravity, kind of the center of my torso. I just kind of know where those cymbals are. I know the weight of the cymbals, and I can drop them that way. You know, maybe if I'm playing in an ensemble, I'll kind of have it in a way that I can feel that and just watch the conductor. And once you know your cymbals, it's really not difficult to get that happening. So, but something you need to practice a lot to get that finesse in your hands, get comfortable with the weight, moving that weight in a slower trajectory to create that softer sound. So soft crashes, very, very important part of cymbal playing and something that you'll find you have to do more often than you want. Okay, well that about wraps it up for cymbals for today. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about approach to crashes. We talked about short crashes, soft crashes. Talked about using your body in the crashes. I think it's important. You can try all these things, find what works for you. But the most important thing is that you practice cymbals. Yeah, that's an important part of being a percussionist. I think one of the most exciting things about being a percussionist is that we get to do so many really interesting things. And like I said at the beginning, I think playing cymbals in an ensemble, whether it's an orchestra or a wind ensemble or a chamber ensemble, can be some of the most expressive and rewarding playing that we do. So thanks for having me in today, Keith. And that's a wrap from the Zildjian Factory in Norwell, Massachusetts.